Let's say China.
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 China. China.
China.
给你，那宝宝
不能给我，
哦，不能给你啊！
还拒腐蚀永不战。
你是美国人呢？
我是中国人，
你的头发是金发，
黑的，
你的眼睛也是蓝的，
黑的，
真的吗？我看看是不是蓝的？
是黑的，都是黑的。
可是那你在哪儿生的呢？你在美国生的？
我在中国生的，
真的啊？那你怎么这么像美国人啊？你是美国人？
我是中国人。
China is not the communist country that it once was, and it has changed quite a bit. And I'm going to go so far as to say this might be one of the safest places in the world right now.
Can you be too comfortable in China, and how does that affect you? Now, to some people who haven't lived in China, they haven't lived in maybe in a big city in China, they kind of think, well, that's a ridiculous question. How could you ever be too comfortable in China? It doesn't make any sense. Well, it's not a ridiculous question because it's actually quite possible. You could do that fairly easily in big cities in China. Beijing, Shanghai, Chengdu, of course. Guangzhou, you could probably do that. I'm not familiar enough with Guangzhou to say that, but you probably could. And, you know, it's incredible that things have become like this in China in some places. And so it's very comfortable here. All I have to say, it's very comfortable living here in China. And it's awesome.
I'd like to stress that if you've come here for politics, you've come to the wrong place. This video is not about politics. This video is about my first impressions of India and, well, my impressions in general of life on the streets in India and in China. Although I am qualified to talk about China, having lived here for over 10 years, I'm not as qualified to talk about India because, well, I only visited India for 10 days. I did, however, manage to soak up a lot during those 10 days. So let's start off with my first impressions. My first impressions of India is that, although it's chaotic, it's very colorful and vibrant, very friendly, very diverse, but also very dirty and poor. My first impressions of China when I first arrived was, although it also shares a lot of similarities with India, being chaotic and vibrant, it was a lot more modern, I felt, and lacking in diversity. In other words, people are very much the same, and very, very, very money-driven. So, is China safe? Well, the whole purpose for me starting this YouTube channel in the first place was to prove to my friends and family that China was safe, interesting, and not the place that you hear about on the news. So the answer to that question is yes, China is very safe. As far as safety is concerned is, of course, public safety. Just you walking around in general out here, you know, at night in the cities. And I'm going to say, as far as that's concerned, China is top-notch. It's an incredibly safe place to just meander around. You don't need to worry about your personal safety. You don't need to worry about getting mugged or attacked randomly as you walk around in the streets. And people are generally very friendly and hospitable. And this is the absolute truth. I'm talking from experience here. I've been living in China over 10 years. And for those of you who may say, but you live in Shenzhen, which is a first-tier city. No, I've been all over China.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the misconceptions of China. In my last video, I talked about air quality, and that is a very big common misconception that people think all of China is polluted. Well, in reality, China is huge, and you cannot accurately say that all of China is polluted. Another common misconception is population. It is fact that China is the most populated country in the world. However, it is a misconception to say that China is overcrowded, people are living on top of each other, you can barely even walk on the streets. That's a misconception because that is not true. And that's not true because China is huge. Let's talk first about what are the top 5 most densely populated urban areas in the world. Starting with Dhaka, Bangladesh, Mumbai, India, Karachi, Pakistan, Manila, Philippines, and Lagos, Nigeria. Notice how none of these areas are in China. And that's because China, like I said, is huge, so these urban areas are more spread out. Let's talk about some more recognizable cities in China, like Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen.
That's pretty much all I knew about China before I came here. Looking back, I really wish I had learned more because China is so big. Good morning, Fearless fam! Today's video is all about answering a question that I've gotten a shocking number of times, which is China safe? If you've come to this video looking for a very short answer, I will give that to you and satisfy those needs right now, and that answer is yes, China is safe. Chinese people seem way more accommodating to foreigners compared to Americans. So that's pretty much all I knew when I first came here, so that's like the first week of living in China. Now that I've lived here for 3 months, I've learned a lot. You would hope so, right? First of all, people in China are so nice. Seriously, they're so welcoming. If you just come here as a tourist and you don't speak Chinese, and just FYI, I don't speak Chinese, but if you're here just for a couple days or a week, you might not get to experience how nice and how welcoming people are. But the second they see you more than, a few times, like the people around our neighborhood, they become so welcoming.
So I just finished packing. I'm about to race to the airport and catch my flight to China. And I can't wait. I haven't been in probably 4 or 5 years, so this is going to be a really fun trip. I have awesome meetings lined up. I am going to celebrate the Huawei watch and Vogue China 10th anniversary. And I'm excited to make some new friends while I'm over there. So here we go.
This group of 19 travelers from Sia Lakes is about to embark on a 9-day tour of Beijing, Xi'an, and Shanghai, China. I guess you could say our 2017 summer vacation was made in China.
What do you think, Amanda? Is it steep enough? I better hold on to something. So what's it feel like to ride bikes on an ancient city wall?
Pretty bumpy.
How did you enjoy the school visit?
I loved it.
Awesome.
I'm never gonna forget this experience with my
I like talking
students.
to them.
Yeah.
It was so amazing.
They're pretty cute, right?
Yeah. They're the sweetest. They're sweeter than people than America also.
China's played an increasing role in Greek affairs, I think, in the last couple of years. At the recent Silk Road Summit in Beijing, Xi Jinping said China and Greece should expand cooperation in telecoms, energy, infrastructure, and Greece has signed a €3 billion deal to cooperate in green energy projects, which you mentioned, and upgrade power plants in Greece. David, I think you wanted to ask something about the relationship of China with Greece and Southern Europe.
The Chinese investment in Southern Europe is making the leaders nervous. It's something that they don't talk about, but when you get like out of the spotlight, I mean, it raises concerns.
My experience with the Chinese and I negotiated with them a deal that was monographed but never in the end signed, which would have been absolutely astonishingly good for Greece, tells me that they are immensely self-serving, as they would, but at the same time they have a quality that we need in Southern Europe. Actually, I think everybody needs to have foreign direct investment by patient investors. They're patient investors. They don't come in to grab an asset for speculative purposes. They come in order to create a base on which to build and build and build, and their horizon is a 20, 30-year horizon.
直接拉